Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the theory behind one of the weirdest political headlines in a long, long time. Remember when a US president wanted to buy Greenland? Yeah, that. Was it a serious offer, or was there something else going on entirely?
Okay, so let's really get into this. On the surface, it sounds completely bizarre, right? It totally caught the world off guard. But the analysis we're digging into today suggests this wasn't random at all. Actually, it might have been a very modern, very calculated political play.
Now, the official reasons they gave, they made sense from a certain point of view. Greenland is in a super strategic spot in the Arctic. As all that ice melts, it's opening up access to a ton of natural resources. And of course, having a stronger US presence up there could definitely put some pressure on Russia and China. All logical points, but maybe not the whole story.
And this is where it gets really interesting. A lot of analysts believe there was a much bigger strategy at play here. The theory goes that the whole Greenland story, well, that wasn't the main event. It was just the cover. At the heart of this whole theory is this idea of a political distraction. And this is a classic move. It's right out of the leadership playbook. You create this huge headline-grabbing spectacle to pull everyone's attention away from other stuff you'd rather they not focus on.
So the analysis we're looking at doesn't see this as some random, quirky idea. It actually frames it as a known political strategy, putting it in the same category as moves made by other world leaders who are, let's say, masters at controlling the narrative back home.
And look, this is not a new concept. The analysis points to tons of examples throughout history where leaders used some big external issue to get everyone to rally around the flag, all while they were pushing through other agendas in the background. It's a textbook move. Which brings us to the million-dollar question, right? If this whole thing was a carefully crafted diversion, what was the real story? What was happening that was so important to hide? Turns out it might not have been just one thing, but a whole bunch of pressures building up at once.
All right, so let's break this down. According to the theory, there were 4 key motives driving this whole strategy. We're going to walk through them one by one, and you'll see how they all start to connect.
So, first up, a really big problem brewing at home. A political threat that was getting dangerously close to the presidency itself.
At the end of the day, a leader's power all comes down to their standing at home. And at that particular moment, the political scene was getting really, really tricky for the administration.
This table pretty much lays out the whole chain of thought. The situation was this. The Republican majority in Congress was paper thin. The risk? After the midterms, Democrats could gain power and start very real impeachment proceedings. So, what's the solution? Create a huge patriotic distraction. Something like, buying Greenland. It could rally Americans and totally change the subject from all those troubles at home.
Okay, the second motive. This one shifts from the political to something much more personal.
So the analysis points to a growing scandal, one that had the potential to do some serious damage to the president's personal reputation. The theory here draws a direct line to the kind of crisis that can tank a president's popularity. Think about the damage the Monica Lewinsky scandal did to Bill Clinton. Well, with the Epstein investigation getting more and more attention and headlines linking the president to it, the idea is that a massive distraction was needed to just change the channel, to protect his personal brand from getting hit. Right, let's get to the third driver. This one takes us back onto the world stage, and it's all about relationships with allies. The thinking goes that the administration felt like its European allies just weren't taking U.S. foreign policy seriously enough. There was this feeling that Europe was kind of doing its own thing and not getting on board with American interests, especially when it came to Russia and China.
So, the Greenland offer suddenly becomes this massive bargaining chip. I mean, think about it. You make a play for territory that belongs to the Kingdom of Denmark, a key NATO ally. That sends a shockwave through the entire alliance. It creates leverage. The goal, according to this theory, was to shake things up, to remind Europe of U.S. power, and to pressure them to get in line, especially on cutting their economic ties with Russia and China.
So now we've got these 3 motives: managing politics at home, deflecting a personal scandal, and putting pressure on Europe. Let's see how they all connect to what this analysis says was the real ultimate goal. All these different pieces moving on the chessboard, according to this theory, they weren't just about playing defense. They were all designed to set the stage for one huge, legacy-defining moment. And this slide just lays out the whole alleged grand strategy. Step 1, create the Greenland distraction to rattle your allies. Step 2, use that newfound leverage to push them away from Russia.
Step 3. That pressure on Europe then isolates and weakens Russia, which creates an opening. An opening to do what? Step 4. Broker a massive peace deal in Ukraine. And the final prize for that deal?
That's it. The theory suggests this entire elaborate plan wasn't just about putting out fires. It was about actively building a path toward the world's most famous award. The Greenland offer was supposedly the first domino in a long, complicated chain reaction, all designed to end with a Nobel Peace Prize.
So let's step back for a second and think about the big takeaway from this whole breakdown of the Greenland Gambit.
What this gives us is a pretty fascinating lens for looking at modern politics. It suggests that what we see in the headlines, that might just be the opening move. It might be part of a much bigger, much more complex game being played for completely different reasons.
And that's a powerful question to keep in your back pocket, isn't it? The next time you see some wild, out-of-the-blue international headline, it's worth asking yourself, what else is going on? What am I not supposed to be looking at right now? It's a good reminder to always look for the story behind the story.